Okay, we are live. Hello, Brian. Good to see you. It's been a couple weeks. Our first hiatus for a long time.
Yeah, usually like when, we go to the off season and we do every other week, or that was our habit for a while. And it was I do every other week while you just keep churning out the apps. Who are you waving to?
Andy said hey in the chat. Thought I'd wave
So
hi.
you silently waved hello.
Yeah, someone said hi to me. I'm gonna say hi. But I mean, I'm
Yeah,
in a conversation with you. It's like when you're talking with
I'm
a
just
friend on the street, then another friend
right.
walks by and you're just like, oh hi. But you
I,
don't stop your
I'm just
convo.
curious, like if he saw that
If Andy would have
silent
seen it.
a
I mean, he's
silent
watching.
wave, I guess, or listening.
Well, I
But he has
mean,
the chat. Oh,
he wrote
yeah.
hey after we went live. I'm kind of figuring he like saw that we went live and he was like,
Oh.
oh hey. And then I'm like,
Well,
hey.
hey Andy to you too. Yeah, Elon with the fresh cut. It's a new look for you.
Yeah, I just figured I don't have a lot of time to go get a haircut, so I thought I'd just get a short one now and then
Yeah.
let it grow for 6 months and then
What
then I'll do my
what
next one.
what did you tell the barber when you sat in the chair?
Actually, Dina sent me a picture of some celeb. I don't even know that that she thought is good, and I showed it to him.
Who is it?
I don't know. It was like just some picture. I don't know.
Wow, you should want to know these
But the barber
things.
like loved himself. He was like halfway through the haircut, and he was like, "By the way, that picture that you showed me, that haircut was shit, and this one is much better."
Well, but
And
that's
then he was like,
but
sometimes these celebrities, like, they don't get to go to their actual barber because they're just getting their haircut like from some like person like on the shoot. And it's not their person. So that's why sometimes their haircuts don't look so good. And I like
all
thought it looked
right.
good.
But if that's the haircut Dina wanted and he didn't do it, he did his better version of it. Did he
Yeah.
really give you what you wanted?
Well, I mean, I like to think that I'm not going to this like $15 haircut like you get, right? Like, I'm going to a place where I'm putting a little bit of, I feel it would almost be insulting, to like
Right.
tell him exactly what to do. Like I have to give him the leeway to
Right.
do his
Right. I'm
art.
paying you to, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
to
I'm
do his
trusting
art.
him to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Um,
Shout out to Wallace Barbershop in Toronto. It's good
wow.
place.
Wow.
Not a paid ad, but I'm
That's a
happy
free
to.
plug right there. I
Yeah, I'm
got
happy
nothing
to.
for that except the pleasure of looking at Elon's haircut, I guess, is what they gave us,
Well, someone's gonna win a free ad potentially today, and we'll get to that. So let's start the
essentially.
actual show. Was
Yep.
all this? This was just all for the pre-show. This was all
Do
for
you still
nothing.
have a do you still have a baby sleeping near you?
Yeah,
So
forever.
still not shouting.
I'm not gonna be shouting,
Okay.
but I could talk a little bit louder.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, it's about the
I'm just,
content,
I'm
right?
just asking. I mean, like I could use the jolt of energy
All right,
myself.
I'll try my
Okay.
best.
The jolt.
Uh, okay, here we go. Yeah, yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keep It Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys, one of whom made it to the second round of the Keeping Karlsson playoff pool, but then lost to like this low-seeded team. Sound familiar? I'm your host, Elon Dubrowski. I'm talking about Brian losing to Ryan, who barely made it to round two. But of course, Ryan did win the couple, so the analogy does kind of fall apart. Aside from that, with me, did I already say I'm Elon Dubrowski? Yeah, I'm with Brian Com. He is the fantasy hockey robot, the prognostication. I'm so excited to talk to him. It's been a couple weeks, Brian. It's been 2 weeks since we talked. It's been forever since we've taken so long apart. So, of course, I have to ask you before we get into hockey, how are you doing?
Wow. we're shaking off the rust here. I'm gonna spend if you want to know the little 10-second personal anecdote, I spent like every minute of this beautiful weather here in Ottawa. Spend weather talk. What have we become? Elon, I don't know what's going on here. Can we talk? I want to talk about the pool, actually. You're counting me out, but 7 points from Marchessault, Stone, and Riley Smith, plus a Seattle shutout, would get me to the next round. Actually,
Okay.
only 5 points from those guys, plus a Seattle shutout. So, like, I'm in this, and a Seattle win, and I just need 6 points from those guys. I still have a chance. I can catch someone here. I'm holding out hope, but it is a murderer's row here. This could couple, like, I can't decide if our playoff pool is like brilliant and challenging, like, because every playoff pool we always talk about is so much luck, right? It's so much, oh, like this guy got hot, oh, this guy did nothing, oh, this series went long, this series barely went at all. I mean, I picked a lot of Panthers, and that didn't work out because the series was short and fairly low scoring. Yeah, and I just can't tell if we've skilled it up or if we've just at least made it more fun if it's not going to involve a lot of skill.
I mean, I think there's skill. You have to draft the players who you think are going to do well. Like Dina, my wife, took a spot and she's going to be going to round 3. And she had 3rd pick overall. And, so McDavid and Draisaitl went 1-2. And then she was like looking at, the Leafs were available, Matthews Marner, but Matthew Tkachuk was there. And she told me, I have a feeling about Tkachuk. And I was like, I think if it was me, I'd probably go Matthews or Marner. She went Tkachuk and it was the right choice. So, there is some skill. I don't know. Would you call that skill or do you call that luck? Who's to say? What fantasy hockey in general, who's to say? But here we are. It's the podcast that we host, so we're going to say there's some skill involved here. And yeah, the playoffs are a little bit hard to predict. But Brian, obviously, the real smart fantasy players would have known to take Jordan Martinook in round 2, right? Because
I've been talking about Jordan Martinook this year, and you know it.
Well, so then you must have him on your team, right? I'd imagine that you made sure to take him with your last pick.
First overall.
Yeah. So Martin, get this. Looking at the stats for round 2. So the KKPP, for those who don't know, every round we redraft. So we already talked about round 1 like 2 weeks ago. So go check out that episode. We're talking about round 2 here. The leader in round 2 is Jordan Martinook, 10 points in 5 games. Incredible, insane. Obviously, like most of those points came I want to say like there was that 1 goal 2 assist game in game 4 against the Devils, but he also had 3 other multi-point games. So Martinook came out of nowhere. Brian, we always like to talk about if like playoff performances are giving us any hints about like next season, like is like Jordan Martinook's stock up, and now like we're going to see how he does for the rest of the playoffs. Maybe this is a guy we need to realize, at the young age of 30, he's finally breaking out, or is this just like the most insane run of luck and there's no way he's going to be worth drafting a fantasy next year?
The young age of 30. Don't flatter yourself there, Elon. He's old, which makes you and I ancient. Career, 20 something point player Jordan Martinook. I mean, I legit have mentioned him this year a few times on the show because we were always talking about how all these Canes were going off, and we talk about like Jesper Fast and Jordan Stahl, but we weren't talking about Jordan Martinook, who had these like a couple little runs where he was relevant in the way that like, oh, look, the Hurricanes are scoring. Which guy is in on it this time? And Jordan Martinook was in on a couple of those runs this year, more so than he had been in the past. And he spent all year with Jordan Stahl and Jesper Fast, right? And that line invites us to talk about them from time to time because of their production. And Martinook was in on some of that. So good for him. I don't think that this is Martinook turning over a new leaf here. Although, like I will put it out there, one interesting change from this playoffs to, last year, he only averaged 10 minutes a night. But this year, before that, the years before that, Martinook, what? Do you just blah, blah, blah me?
I was testing my Mutify. It hasn't even been working. Sorry.
Well, way to blah, blah, blah.
I thought you weren't going to hear.
Rude.
I just wanted to test while you were talking to see. Sorry, edit point. Now I don't have a way to mute. God. I'll just have to be really quiet. That's annoying.
All right. Martinook, in past playoff seasons, aside from the 10-minute year last season, like he'd been in the 12 to 14 minute range. This year, almost 17 minutes a night of ice time. And like you could say, okay, is this what came first, the chicken or the egg? But he's been seeing big ice through the whole Isles series. Actually, he said there were a couple games he has this big short-handed role that I think has lifted his ice time. So that's one of the reasons why Martinook is on the ice more. Anyway, this is a lot to say that Martinook is not. You shouldn't expect a whole lot more, but I do wonder if, especially, he's someone that the Canes rely on a little bit more. But also keep in mind, like Svechnikov and Pacioretty are both out, which means that there might be a little more time thrown Martinook's way. So very exciting. And like under the hood, he's always looked like an interesting player. He doesn't get a lot of ice time. It seems like there's a reason for that. But in the ice time he does all right. He is taking, did I even say he's taking twice as many shots as he normally
I'll be
does.
honest, I didn't expect we were going to talk so much about Jordan
Me
Martinook.
neither.
I was
Well, I
bringing
don't
him
know.
up like
You
tongue in
you
cheek.
asked me about a guy. It's my job to talk about him. So yeah, 43 points in 62 games was his best AHL season, and that was in 2014-15 in Portland. As Andy's shouting out in the chat, Martinook is a Portland Pirates legend, according to Andy.
Yeah, we'll
So
take his word.
yeah, we'll take his word for it. So fun. I like this is just like, it reminds me a lot of, Dave Boland, or, I'm thinking of the Chicago, the LA, the Tampa, like Yanni Gourde, who is like better than Jordan Martinook, but all these depth guys who step up in the playoffs, make a name for themselves, and then go back to being nobodies. That's what I expect to see from Jordan Martinook.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, this is all for fun. Like, he's not going to do this like maybe ever again. But it just goes to show, like, the main story here is, of course, Carolina totally destroyed New Jersey in that series. And Brian, this is all just the prelude. We haven't even talked about what we're going to be doing on this episode. But I will say, just to the Devils fans out there that are feeling like bummed about getting destroyed by Carolina, keep in mind, like, at the start of the season, a lot of people were picking the Canes as like potential cup favorites, right? And New Jersey was like a team that was, wouldn't it be cool if we make the playoffs finally? So, I mean, I think New Jersey's on a good track, and they're going to maybe next year and the following year be a really strong challenger for the Canes and whoever they play in the playoffs. So, hold your head up high. Great season for the Devils. Brian, okay, let me just actually, okay, that was a prelude to the episode. So, first of all, Keeping Karlsson, presented by DobberHockey.com. Proudly so. Great website. Check it out. Number two, we actually we'll talk a little bit more about the playoffs, but actually the plan for today is a yearly tradition we have, Brian. I think this is the third year in a row we're doing this. We are having a contest. We took entries from all the listeners who chose to write in. We shared with the patrons. We posted on Twitter saying, like, anyone who thinks that they lost their league, but if there's only like one thing different, they would have won, like they really should have won. And it's like, even like not their fault that they lost. And, we got those entries of their reasoning, and we're going to decide who's the listener of all of our entries that was the most deserving to win their league and didn't. The person who got screwed the most. I don't know. I don't know if we have an official label for this. This is a contest. We got a prize. It's going to be a lot of fun. Brian's been collecting all the entries. I haven't even seen any of them. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's the plan for today. Maybe we could talk. What do you want to do, Brian? You want to get into this and then talk, some more playoff stats for round 2 at the end, or do you want to do that first?
Let's do that first. Let's talk a bit about the playoffs, and then we'll rewind back in time to some fantasy playoff and regular season stories about people being eliminated. But how about we start topical? Let's take that opportunity.
All right, so we don't need to do deep dives here necessarily, but obviously, Brian, you're the host for this episode once I get through this. So I'll do what I can here. The other big stories from this play, obviously we don't need to talk about Connor McDavid and his 9 points in 5 games. Not surprising, though it is surprising potentially that the Oilers might lose today. We're recording this Sunday night at around 8:35 right now. So this game versus Vegas, game 6 hasn't started yet. We'll see if the Oilers make it to game 7 or not, and if McDavid's story ends. We have to also talk about another winner, Dallas. Oh no, we have to also the next leading scorer in round 2 so far, and someone who's just been insane, is Joe Pavelski. Holy cow, 8 goals in 6 games, plus an assist. Pavelski scoring so many goals. He's like, a lot of them are just like tip-ins. He's so good at that. He just like stands there, someone takes a shot, just bloop. There you go. Goal for Pavelski. Doesn't even have to use his wrist. And man, I don't even know if that's true for tipping. I don't tip in goals very often, but yeah, 38 years old. Insane. Like, it's just, I have him, Brian, in my dynasty league. And I was thinking maybe now's a good time to shop him. Like, I'm in win now mode, right? Like, my team is old. Like, Pavelski's my youngest player. But I feel like he's doing so well in the playoffs. Maybe try to get something for him. I don't know, but I kind of feel like he's probably just going to continue to be awesome next. Like, probably he's not going to score 8 goals every 6 games, but he is like not slowing down. It's incredible.
It is. He's timeless, Joe Pavelski, and like so many other aging players we've mentioned as of late. Pavelski's been actually a really prime example of these guys who are changing their games a little and reinventing what they do and how they score goals. Except Pavelski, like, is sort of reinvented. It hasn't been huge. He's definitely he is getting older and he is putting fewer shots on net, but his power play production is definitely one place where he's really his numbers have spiked. And I don't know if this is like a late in his career thing or just arrived in Dallas and playing a different role kind of thing. But basically the last 3 seasons for Pavelski, he's generated career high expected goals per 60 numbers on the power play. And Elon, I think one of the reasons for that is because of how dangerous he can be from right in front of the net or usually, just in front between like the crease and the right face-off circle in the offensive zone is where he kind of parks himself and does a fantastic job. And what's really impressive for Pavelski too is he's doing this at age 38 and also not slipping really in any other portion of his game. Like, yes, he's no, maybe that's not fair to say. Slipping a little. He's getting older. He's not as effective as he once was. But what I mean to say, he's not a detriment to his team at all. Like at 5-on-5 for offense, the team is solid with him on the ice. Like he's not dragging, he's not holding them back. On defense, he's not leaving a hole. He's doing his job really well, just being there and being steady and dependable at 5-on-5, and then doing some really, really great damage on the power play. And also a fun little Joe Pavelski stat. He is one of he takes some of the lowest penalties in the league. Like he does not offend the offend. I don't know how to finish that sentence. He's not
Lady Bing candidate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. So good for him. He really does very little to hurt his team and a lot to help them. So way to go, Joe.
He's awesome. I thought it would also be fun to look at some players who like people weren't necessarily drafting, like aside from Jordan Martinook, a couple players who really did nothing in round one of the KKPP were a couple defensemen in Vince Dunn over in Seattle, who had only 1 point in that 7-game series versus Colorado. And then Aaron Ekblad, who had no points in Florida's round one series versus Boston. Both of them doing much better right now. They were like steals if you got them in the round 2 KKPP draft. Vince Dunn, 6 assists in 6 games now. We're going to see how he does in game 7 versus Dallas. And then Ekblad only had 5 games, got himself 5 points. Very good. So, Brian, are either of those players more or less? Okay, let me make sure. Let me start. Pause. So, Brian, are either of these like surprises to you that they bounced back? Like what you were in round 2, as you said, were they guys that you were discounting after they had done, nothing in round 1? Obviously, they're 2 different players. I'm curious to get your take on this like bounce back from Dunn and Ekblad after doing nothing in the first round.
Yeah, no, I liked Ekblad's shot generation, and I actually thought I was going to be able to draft him to my roster. And then he got picked just before I was able to, as was Vince Dunn. So I missed out on both of them, thinking they would both fall to me because they both had disappointing first rounds and parts of a season. I mean, Dunn broke out this year, but at the same time faded right back away. And what I liked about Ekblad in the first round was that he seemed to be, he wasn't getting a lot of points, but he was at least taking a few more shots against Boston than we had seen him take like on a regular basis. The shots did fade away against Toronto, only 2 shots over his last 3 games. And that really is the value of Aaron Ekblad. So when he's not doing, like, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, Ekblad. Like, he's not somebody that I'm going to be very interested in drafting. I will happily take Vince Dunn ahead of Aaron Ekblad next year, knowing that Dunn might desert me for a week or 2 or 3 at a time, but he could also win me weeks where Aaron Ekblad, I feel like, maybe he might pop up here and there, but I don't think he's ever going to have a really solid dominant stretch where I'm like, yes, I'm so glad I hung on to him for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, another defenseman who was point per game on the same team as our friend Joe Pavelski, you would have expected the Dallas leading defense scorer would be Heiskanen, but no, it's 21-year-old Thomas Harley, 6 points in 6 games in round 2 here. I'm looking at his game log and, no power play time. He wasn't even getting 20 minutes. Like, I know he's like a somewhat heralded guy. Oh, wait, I'm looking at the wrong person. Ugh. Okay. I have to go back. Why is it on the Jordan Martin? Okay, sorry, everybody. You would have thought it would have been Miro Heiskanen, but no, it's Thomas Harley who has the most points for Dallas defensemen in the second round so far. 6 points in 6 games for Thomas Harley. A high pedigree guy, like 18th overall pick back in 2019, only 21 years old, as I said. And, he hasn't been playing big minutes. He's gotten a little bit of power play time, not even too much, less than 20 minutes a game on average, yet he's getting a point in basically every single game. He had 2 points in games, what would that be? Game 4, the one on May 9th. So yeah, Brian, Thomas Harley, obviously he's new to the league. As far as the regular season went, he did play only 6 games this year. He actually had 34 games in 21-22 and then only got 6 games in this year. Is this a sign? Is this the Cale Makar breakout from a couple years ago? And we're seeing it with Thomas Harley.
I love when you're like trending towards the question and you just got to throw something out there. There's no need to use Thomas Harley and Cale Makar in the same sentence here. It has been nice to see Harley make an impression here in the bigs. I don't think he's ever been someone who's expected to do a whole lot offensively. Like in the OHL, he was an offensive defenseman, had a couple near point per game seasons, which is great. And that's what you'd expect for anybody with a shot at the NHL. But then with Texas, he's been closer to a half point per game. Texas of the AHL, where he played 66 games this year. And of course, 6 with the big club in Dallas. He's already doubled that in the playoffs. And Harley's someone who I think, might just take 1 or 2 shots a game, could find his way to like a 40-point pace. Like you said, he has that first overall pedigree. Dobber Prospects has his upside, though.
First round, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. First round, 18th overall. Harley's upside on Dobber Prospects is ranked at 48 points in an 82-game season. So I think that's probably pretty fair. And that's upside, right? Mm-hmm. Like that does not mean that's where he's likely to land, which is why I said more like a 40-point player. So yeah, it's again, he's another guy doing well, probably earning a full-time job next year. And so what I might be looking for Thomas Harley, especially in deeper leagues, is what is he doing peripherally? And the answer is not a whole lot. 1 or 2 shots a game. He has 1 big hit game. He had 5 hits against Seattle on Saturday. The rest of the playoffs hasn't hit much. Also hasn't blocked a whole lot through the playoffs either. So it looks like he could just be a mid or bottom pair player that doesn't garner a whole lot of interest from you.
Yeah, I mean, in most leagues, if it's the peripherals league, then you're going to want a defenseman who's at least going to hit or block if you're, taking someone who doesn't have a huge offensive upside. Okay, so if you're not liking Harley as a rookie to draft next year based on what they've done in the playoffs because of the peripherals and maybe that offense isn't sustainable, one more, and then we'll cut to a break and then we'll get to our contest, okay, Brian? But I gotta ask you about Ty Carty, someone who I never even heard of until these playoffs started over on Seattle. 4 points in 6 games, which is good. But, I know maybe you'll say like, well, a lot of people have been doing that. It's a small sample size, but you're talking about peripherals before. How about 40 hits in his 9 playoff games so far? This guy has come out of nowhere for me. I'm sure like some Seattle fans are going to be like, we've known about this guy's been in the pipeline forever. He's a hero of ours. But yeah, Carty, 40 hits. If you look at the game log lately, like in this, he's making his presence felt in this series versus Dallas, like 4 hits in the last game, 8 in the previous game, 7 in the game before. And this isn't like a 4th liner also. Like it's pretty rare to see someone who I'd consider him on the top line, right? He's been playing with Eberle and Beniers, and he's hitting so much. This is kind of like when Zach Cassian was playing with Connor McDavid. That's what it's reminding me of. So is Ty Carty, as you say, I'm going to throw you the ridiculous question. Is Ty Carty going to produce next year like Zach Cassian did that year that he was with McDavid? And he was awesome because he was getting points and also piling up the hits.
That's progress in your questioning. Instead of saying, is Ty Carty up there with Connor McDavid, which was basically what you did with Harley. Could he be like a guy who's played with Connor McDavid? I think that's a very fair question.
Also, though, before you answer, Andy's correcting my pronunciation.
Cartier.
Cartier. I apologize.
Ooh, yeah, I've never seen it spelled that way. But from Kingston, Ontario, I guess you could see the way a name like Cartier ends up looking as Ty Cartier's does. It's really weird to say it that way. If you're not familiar with Cartier, undersized, 5'11" is what he's listed at, 202. He's 22 years old, just turned 22, and undrafted. Cartier, but was signed on after playing an overage season in the OHL with the Sioux in 21-22. Cartier joined the Coachella Valley Firebirds and had 57 points in 72 games this year, including 2 goals in 3 playoff games when the Kraken were like, how about you come play in the playoffs for us? And we noticed him right away, right? We did mention him on the show that suddenly he's on the top line, and his role has just continued to grow since making his debut against Colorado. He played 9 minutes, and the next game he played 8 minutes, then 12 minutes, then 14 and a half minutes. And he's sort of been in that 12 to 14 minute range until he hit a new high on Saturday with just over 15 minutes of ice. And that included a near 50% share of the power play time for Seattle. So Ty Cartier, looking like he's, up there in the depth chart, or getting up there in the depth chart, which of course the caveat in Seattle remains that like there's only so much this guy can do for you if he's anywhere on the Seattle depth chart, because it's almost all the same, really, no matter where you are in that top 9, or at some points in the season even top 12. But as you mentioned, Elon, the real value for Cartier, if he can stay in a role where he can pick up, like, I don't know, 50 something points next year, are those hits that come along with it. Those are real juicy. So yeah, I'd keep an eye and see where he lands. I mean, keep in mind, I don't know whose spot he's in, Elon. I don't know if you happen to, like, Sprong was injured, so I think that's part of it.
McCann missed some games.
McCann was out. Burakovsky is injured. Eunice Donskoy is on the team.
Apparently
he
hasn't been around for a while.
Yeah, so like, there's a lot of moving pieces here that may or may not mean Cartier gets to actually make the team at a camp next year, but I love him as someone who's come in, made an impression, and might be somebody to watch if he does make the team out of camp and hits matter to you.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously we'll see how the rest of the playoffs go. Obviously a big game coming up. Must be pretty exciting to have not played in the regular season at all, now playing in a game 7 to try to go to the conference finals. Exciting stuff going on over in Seattle. Imagine, Brian, Seattle versus Vegas, the 2 expansion teams playing each other in the conference finals. That would be fun.
Yeah. So, like, tell me, what does that mean to you? Like, what's the moral? What's the message?
First of all, I feel like a lot of people were, making fun of Seattle and saying how they thought they did such a bad job. So I think I'd want to go look back and see if maybe that was warranted or not. Like, maybe they had a plan the whole time. Like, I know that people say they didn't pick the right guys, but if you look at the lineup now, it seems to be a lot. Anyway, that's one thing. I'm not saying I'm not giving my opinion necessarily, but I'm saying that's something I want to go and look back on, because I remember a lot of people were really down on their expansion draft, which was only like 2 years ago, right? It's not too long ago. What else does it tell me? I don't know. It tells me, well, I guess you would think that maybe they're saying that the rules are too much in favor of expansion teams. Like, it's like, because I guess you start with that 0 cap. That must be like such a handy thing to not have to worry about that. I don't know. Do you have an answer that you were trying to pull out of me, or
no? Like, well, I figured like there's got to be some moral to this story of Seattle and Vegas coming in, and I think, like, for me, you were sort of getting at it. Like, it's one of 2 things. The first is that the expansion rules are too easy, and teams like who have just come into the league were given way too good a chance, or these opportunities are more or less available to any GM who can find a way. I mean, the thing that Vegas and Seattle had that no other team does and no other GM gets is a totally clean slate, right? You're starting with 0 salary on the books. Every GM who starts a job usually has at least a few anchors on the depth chart, because of the predecessor who then got fired because of the mistakes they made that were those anchors. So that's what Seattle and Vegas has in their favor. But I almost feel like it's kind of making a mockery of like these other NHL GMs and teams who have been in the league for a really long time and could work towards a reset that sort of would equal what Vegas and Seattle, had an opportunity to do and couldn't. Yeah.
Kyle Dubas didn't really have any bad contracts that he had to walk into. The Leafs were like, but anyway, I'm not saying it's interesting. There have been some coaches the GMs that have had the opportunity. Like, that was just one example that jumped to mind. And I think actually he did a good job. I don't want to get into the whole Leafs thing, but like, I think he built a good roster. Maybe he should have fired the coach a year or 2 ago. But I think, Brian, we should probably head to the commercial break before I get in trouble with Leafs fans here. Or maybe they're going to be like, yeah.
I don't know why you had to drag Kyle Dubas into this.
Well, you said how like GMs don't get this opportunity. He's like an example of someone who really did come in with a clean slate. And like, I think he had Phil Kessel and he traded him away, right? Was he? Or was that before he came? I don't even know. Brian, we're going to take a break. When we come back, our awesome contest, we're going to crown who is the most deserving person to have not won their league this year. They're going to win an awesome prize. We're going to tell you all about it in just a sec. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. All right, Brian, we are back. And with that, I'm handing the reins of the show over to you. You're the host now, which means I'm going to sit back, relax, throw questions at me, and I'm going to answer them.
Okay. Yeah, I will figuratively throw questions at you. And the questions are mostly going to be, how deserving do you think this loss was for so and so who wrote in. So basically what we did, as Elon already alluded to, we made a Google form and we invited patrons on our Discord and the general public on Twitter to share their stories of why they lost. And like what we're getting at here is every season, you know, when you ask somebody how they're doing in fantasy or what happened, you know, we have event channel for this too. Everyone's like, like it's so unfair. I should have won, but. And so we're grabbing the stories out of those butts. I really could have phrased that better.
I like it.
Yeah, thanks. To understand like the least, like the gravest injustice for somebody and why they lost. Because like some of us can say, oh yeah, like this guy was injured, or like a lot of the time it's just like, well, you
how about I'll give you an example of a bad reason.
Okay. Well, I might have a couple in the stories, but please share one right off the top.
Say, like, for example, I could be like, oh, I would have totally won my couple division if I didn't get screwed by Elvis Merzlikins and Philip Grubauer not being worth the money I spent on them in the draft. I think that's more a me problem.
You deserve that. Yeah, you deserve that loss. Like you pinned a lot of your season hopes on them. It did not work out. But so we're looking for basically the least deserving loser.
Okay.
Is what we're
and we have a
at.
prize from our discussions, I believe we have two potential prizes in mind. We're going to give the winner a choice. Okay, here's your two choices. A, you get to have a pizza sent to you, assuming you live in somewhere reasonable where we can easily like order a pizza and have it sent to you.
What would be unreasonable? Like with the internet today, we tried Sweden last year, and
North Pole. I don't know. There's got to be.
That's where Phoenix Copley's from, isn't it?
The International Space Station.
Oh yeah. Chris Hadfield actually told me why he lost his fantasy pool. It was because his I don't know. His spacewalk lasted a little long, and Rupe Hintz was marked D to D just before puck drop, and he couldn't move into his IR plus.
I mean, you should have planned ahead for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Rupe, by the way. But okay, the other option, if you don't want the pizza,
every time,
you could also, or maybe even in addition, depending on what I don't know, depending how generous we feel, a free ad on the show. We will do an ad read for, I don't know, your business, or like just, I don't know, trash talking your friends. Also, like within reason, something that we don't hate. But so that's also an option for the way. So big stakes here. And also, I'm just gonna say as one other caveat before Brian starts throwing the things at me, I'm gonna be kind of like a jerk. Okay, I'm gonna start. I'm a nice guy normally, but I'm gonna play a character here. I'm gonna be hard on because I can't just say everyone wins, right? There can only be one winner. Everyone else is a loser. So I'm gonna be hard on people. I'm gonna try to but it's all for fun. It's all with love.
Okay. Right? Yeah. And Elon, I think like we haven't really devised a scale for how we determine whether someone deserves to lose. So I think it'll just be like, I have
an idea. How about we just sort of make two piles? Like there'll be like a yes pile and a no pile, and then at the end maybe we can re-go over the yes pile.
Okay, but is the yes pile is yes, you should have won.
Yeah, like yes pile, like you're in contention to win this thing, and no pile is like not good enough.
Okay.
And then we could, so maybe if you could just keep track of like put a tick beside the ones that I'm like, yeah, okay, I could see that. And then like at the end, we'll go over the ones that, and then we'll pick the winner.
Okay. I'll keep track of the yes pile. Okay. Are you ready to get to the stories?
Let's do it.
First off, thanks to everyone who wrote in and shared their story. We sifted through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of submissions and just picked the absolute best. But really, whenever we put the call out and you guys engage and participate, we really always appreciate that. All right. First up is Professional Slacker. He did not lose because he's slacking. Right. He lost. Okay.
Okay. One thing I'll just say, maybe moving forward, don't tell me the name because it might bias me.
Because you know these people. Patrons. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right.
But it's okay. Just move forward with this one.
This story is so his home league is a total points wins league, and like the point structure is whatever, like basic. It's pretty basic, like points for goals and assists, a little bonus for power play points, shorthanded points. There's like some other category like PIMS or plus minus that we don't care too much about. But
and it's just it's not head to head. You're saying just total points for the whole season.
Total points wins league. Yeah.
What does that mean? Wins league.
It's full season. I think whoever has the most points wins.
Is there
as
like
far
a games played requirement? Otherwise, I would just be streaming like crazy. Get the most games, you get the most points.
Okay,
Anyway,
yeah,
okay.
great question. I might have that information somewhere because I did do a little digging.
Well, okay,
Uh,
let's hear the reason. We'll see if it's
Whatever. Yeah,
relevant.
come on. Okay. Because well, you're already deciding that this person deserved to lose if they
What?
didn't
Just because?
use
Oh,
the fact that there were unlimited moves to their advantage.
okay.
Like no matter
Well,
what you can say, you should have won.
let's hear what
Okay.
they said.
So this is you'll a lot of you will be familiar with this trope. So they wrote, we had no trades last season, and this season we had one trade that happened, and this trade shook the league to its very core. There was a veteran manager.
I hate
All
this
right.
already.
Someone
I
who's
hate
been
when
in the
this
league a
happens.
while.
Yeah.
Guess who they traded with, Elon?
The last place new person that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah. That's
I hate that.
exactly. They found a new
Yeah.
manager.
That's why we made the counteroffer rule in the
Ah.
couple.
Okay, so listen. They in this league have copied our counter rule. Good for
Okay.
you. Every league should copy our counter rule. And they like everybody was like veto this trade. The trade. I should be like I don't need to hide it. Dominic Kubalik
Okay.
for Timo Meyer
Ridiculous.
on November 16th. So
Like Kubalik had a good start, if I recall. He was hot.
So Kubalik was actually outpointing Meyer in their format by 3.5 points.
But he was probably picked out of free agency versus Meyer, who was probably picked in like the second round.
Yes, and
Okay.
Kubalik was hot, and
No, you
Meyer
have to veto that. You
had
either
not
get a
warmed
counter.
up yet.
Yeah.
And
By the way,
Kubalik was still just barely outpacing Timo Meyer.
And keep in mind, for the couple, we have the counter offer rule where like someone could like make a better offer if they think a trade is unbalanced, and then the original trader can like accept it. But then we as the commissions still have the option to veto. Like if a counter doesn't come, or like this generally has worked out for us where now we don't have to veto as often. And this season we didn't have to veto at all because usually like it ends up becoming something that everyone agrees is somewhat fair. But yeah, in this case, I would definitely veto that trade if I was the commission. I'd probably also, I don't know what I'd do, but it's like no fun for anybody. Just
so it's almost like
for everybody. Yeah,
and if you have the counter offer rule, I think that maybe there's some mandatory commish training we can make, Elon, about how the counter offer rule works, and you still have a job to do here. But the commissioner said, no, I'm not vetoing it, even though everybody was calling for it because counters are available.
So someone could have just offered someone better than Kubalik for Meyer.
Yeah, exactly. But we've heard this story.
Did this person make an offer?
This person, unclear. I think they made an overture. They made an approach. But the new manager in the league, and we've heard this one before too, Elon, did not want to talk counter because they were afraid after like they didn't feel comfortable countering.
Okay, so they were like worried that like the person would get mad at them. The first place in the league person would be.
I think that was part of it, and also I think they were already a little embarrassed, and I think they were worried about being embarrassed further.
Well, okay, this is where you gotta veto. This sucks.
Yeah.
So, okay. So did we know this is a professional slacker? Did professional slacker come in second place, and the winner is the person who got Meyer?
Well, so here's what happened. Kubalik picked up 35 points the rest of the year and ended up on waivers. Yeah. And so, but Timo Meyer put up twice as much over the rest of the season.
It's total points. I was about to say in the fantasy playoffs, Meyer kind of disappeared, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. So also, like rosters are huge in this league. I'm not sure at which point I should have mentioned this. And it's a keeper. So like trading a legit keeper for somebody who came from waivers and went back to waivers is disastrous. So that extra gain. So Meyer had about 35 more points over the rest of the season compared to Kubalik. That was the difference. That was the difference for the first place finisher finishing first and fourth. That whole second place and third place would have easily overtaken first place.
And was professional slacker in second place? This whole thing is like I would have won if not for this.
Yes, by 9 points.
Okay, this is going in the yes pile. This is definitely
okay. Like, well, I had one more kicker for you.
Okay.
The final kicker is that no other trades happened.
I mean,
So no trades happened last year. One trade happened this year, and it was league deciding.
this is like league deciding, league ruining. Like for me, it's like I'm not having fun. If I'm in a league and this goes down, it's like, I'm a professional slacker. What am I supposed to do? I'm doing my best here. I'm trying to win this league. Things totally out of my control happen. And now I lose. It sucks. Okay. So this is a yes pile.
Yeah.
And we'll see if anything can beat it. Okay.
Going in the yes pile. So as an epilogue, I asked if the new manager, like I was like, hey, just curious, is that manager back in the league?
No,
like,
are they quitting?
No, they actually are, and they finished middle of the pack somehow.
Maybe it's a learning experience.
That's what they said. They said they'll research their trades better next year, but come on. Also, you need an off-season talk with the commish too about when to veto.
Because this is especially in a keeper league. Come on.
Yeah.
Imagine if someone joins my dynasty league where we're all like been building our teams for like years. Someone comes in, takes over a team, gives away all their studs, and then like leaves. Or like here in this case, this person is staying. This person should be required to like pay the next like 5 years entry fee right now, just to confirm that they won't leave after trading away Meyer for nothing.
Yeah, I agree. If you're gonna turn your league upside down, you owe everybody a little bit of assurance. It's almost like there should be like a bad trade insurance. Like everybody puts like $50 in.
Just anytime you make a trade,
if you make a bad trade,
yeah. Well, maybe just any trade.
It's a trade deposit.
Yeah. Or yeah, maybe the league votes on like whether this person should have to put a deposit down.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. Okay. Here's a start.
Okay. So that's luck. Well, we know who it is, but I'll name the story bad trade. All right. Okay. We got the bad trade story. That's in the yes pile. All right. Moving into the next. Elon, how do you feel about tiebreakers?
Like, you mean like if you lose because of a tiebreaker, does that mean you deserve to win?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, like the tiebreaker, we need a tiebreaker. But let's see like why. Maybe if it's like if only this little like unlikely thing didn't happen, it wouldn't have even been tied, and then you tie.
Yeah.
So let's hear the whole thing. And I'm excited to see where this goes.
Well, it's actually not going to go very far. It's actually more of a humble brag than a why I lost story. Like we put out this call, like tell us why you lost, and someone wrote in from the perspective of this is from the perspective of my opponents, LOL, which I love. Like good for you. Way to speak up for all the people that you beat. And saying they didn't like it's like in one hand it's like kind of like really humane and kind and generous.
I'm sure it wasn't meant that way.
On the other it's like, well, these people should be writing in because I beat them. But
I guess if you're being humble and being like I actually should have lost, then I guess that's fair. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it. So what's the reason?
They said they on their way to winning the championship in both the quarterfinals and the championships, they tied their opponents in categories. This is a categories league. You know, it was like 4-4 or whatever.
So what was the tiebreak goals?
The tiebreak was place in the standings. That's it.
Oh, that's I like that as a tiebreaker. It's like you get a extra bonus for, having a better regular season.
Yeah. So they lost because they fared worse in the regular season and had fewer overall points during the regular season.
That's a no pile. Those people deserve to lose because if they would have done better in the regular season, then they would have had the tiebreaker. But this person earned the tiebreaker by doing better in the regular season.
Right. Like this is like like what we say in the cupful, right? Especially with the fast track. It's like your goal is always to get the most points possible. Like no matter
rank
what.
As high as you can. Yeah. I would say like maybe if this was like the tiebreaker was something stupid and like I had more goals and I had more assists, but like the tiebreaker was plus minus for some reason. And that's why then I'd be like, okay, you probably deserve to win that. But here it's like the tiebreaker was something reasonable. So not going through.
Deserve to lose. Prince's opponents deserve to lose. That's from our friend Prince. Okay. This one was it was submitted anonymously, so I'm just going to tell you we're never going to know.
Oh, I hope this one wins, so then we don't have to send the pizza.
This one is like if I were to share why I lost, it would be very much like this. Okay. This is somebody describing the sequence of events that led to them losing. So two things had to happen for this matchup to end up in a tiebreaker, and then the submitter lost the tiebreak on top of that. So the two things that happened were first, Connor Hellebuck, this is April 2nd, playing against the New Jersey Devils. All right. And it's at home. So like, okay, well, The Jets probably aren't going to win this, although the Jets won 43 games this year, only 5 fewer than the Devils in regulation. So that's pretty good. They're at home to New Jersey. New Jersey's a really good team, but Connor Hellebuck, against all odds, is pitching a shutout. He's stopped all 31 shots he's faced until with just 14 seconds left in the game. He gives up a goal to Nico Hischier. Nico Hischier scores the goal with 4 seconds remaining on a power play taken by Dylan DeMello for a slashing call with 2:10 left in a game that the Jets are winning 6-0.
So this person had Hellebuck and needed the shutout?
Lost the shutout. Okay. All right.
I mean, it's not the least likely thing to happen for your goalie to not get a shutout.
No, but when your team is winning 6-0 and your defenseman takes a slashing penalty with 2 minutes left and you kill off 1 minute and 56 seconds of that power play.
Yeah. I mean, that is very frustrating.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got a good game out of Hellebuck against a strong team. So maybe.
Yeah. He stopped 31 and 32 that night. So
still helpful. But I guess it's a categories league and like shutout is a category, or just he would have gotten extra points in like points league, or do we know that?
Well, Andrea is in the chat saying that is my opponent with several exclamation marks.
Oh, congrats, Andrea, for winning that.
Yeah. So I guess this is Cupful. By the way, Elon and I have talked. We're preparing Cupful behind the scenes. Registration is going to open after the Stanley Cup Finals concludes.
Yes.
Boom.
We're going to be ready.
Okay.
Can I say another announcement? We're
probably in the middle of the story.
In the middle of the story. Since you did one, I'll do one.
Okay.
KKPP round 3. We're going to do a live draft show, probably Wednesday night. Well, actually, it depends what happens tonight, and it depends if the Oilers and Vegas go to. Anyways, I put out a poll on the Discord. If you think you're going to make it to KKPP round 3, if you have a decent chance and you think you'd be interested in joining a live draft show, probably around like a 9 p.m. Eastern, one of these nights in the next couple, after round 2 is over, respond to that poll. So I'm just saying, okay, I already made the poll, but in case you didn't see it. Okay, Brian,
okay. Back to the story. Also, It's not Cupful because I'm realizing that the next reason why this person lost is because they have game-winning goals as a category in their league, which is always difficult.
So did this goal then make it so that the 5th goal scored by...
This was a different event on the same day.
Okay.
Detroit beat the Leafs 5-2.
Mm-hmm.
Which, maybe that one's a
unlikely,
little more surprising.
But,
yeah, and that's on the road too.
But the Leafs weren't trying at this point. Like they already had
knew
they're playing Tampa.
They knew they were playing Tampa.
Everyone's probably resting someone that game.
Yeah, trying to make it, past the first round, which they did. So it worked. So Dylan Larkin got the game-winning goal in this game. Dylan Larkin actually had a hat trick, but he scored Detroit's 3rd goal in the first period. 39 seconds left to the intermission. So it was 3-1 Detroit at that point. The game winner belonged to Jonathan Berggren, who had actually scored the go-ahead goal, right? Like the actual technical game winner. Mm-hmm. But then in the 3rd, guess who takes a holding penalty? Dylan Larkin takes a holding penalty. John Tavares scored the power play goal 6 minutes into the 3rd period, which made Dylan Larkin's goal the game-winning goal. Conspiracy? Did Dylan Larkin take this penalty
so that
he could pad his game-winning goal stats? Like, I feel like if I were in the NHL and my team had a comfortable enough lead, I would constantly be taking low-key penalties.
Is that a big thing when GMs are deciding who to give a contract to and how much? They're like, who has let me see your game-winning goals.
I feel like agents would definitely try and highlight this, when they're making their pitch. Yeah.
Okay, this just goes to show that game-winning goals is a stupid category. I think they should change the rule for game-winning goal, that it should only count as a game-winning goal if the game-winning goal was scored in the last 5-10 minutes of the game. It should be an actual goal that when the goal was scored, it was this is probably the goal that's going to win the game. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Brian had to go for a second, so I'll just ad lib here for a sec. But I think it's clear there's something very flawed with this stat, because clearly Dylan Larkin didn't score. The whole idea, I'm sure that the GMs are so excited about and the agents are highlighting is what a clutch player. This person comes through when we need them most and they scored the goal that matters. So there's a flaw in the stat. We all know it. Let's change it or get rid of it. I don't think we have to get rid of it because I like the idea behind it. I like the idea of like clutch goals. I just think they need to change it to actually account for that. Maybe even include tying goals. Like maybe it should be called clutch goals, and it should be a goal with like 10 minutes left or 5 minutes left that either gives the team the lead or ties the game. Something like that. Put it out there. Tell that to Bettman or whoever decides. Who does Bettman decide what stats matter? I guess not. I don't know.
I have no idea, but I wonder, like, some teams and agents keep private stats. And it wouldn't surprise me if clutch goals was one of them. And I really like the idea, Neela. And it doesn't even have to be like, maybe that could be like bonus if it's in the last 5 minutes to tie or go ahead. But I would say like any goal scored in a game state where the game is either tied or there's a 1 goal difference.
Well, so what? The first goal of the game is a clutch goal?
Yeah, I think that's a clutch goal.
I don't know. Well, anyway, but yeah, we can.
Or you can make the caveat that it can't happen in the first period.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. Okay, so anyway, so this person got double screwed because they were both like things. So I guess this person, the opponent, had Larkin.
So their opponent had Larkin. They had Hellebuck. Hellebuck barely lost a shutout. Larkin barely had the game winner.
Goal. And that
led to a tiebreaker that this person lost.
Like the thing is, like, each of these things on their own are kind of like, I mean, it does, and it's so unlikely and it must have been so frustrating. I think you probably deserve to win. Like, because it's like right until the end of these, like, it looked like you had a healthy win, right? You were going to win the shutout and you were going to win game-winning goals. And then all of a sudden, like, these two fluky things happen. You lose both. What are the chances? You probably deserve to win that. So put that in the yes pile. We'll debate this later. But I need to not put too many things in the yes pile. But that's pretty good. Only one of them, I would have been like, not enough. But 2 of them at the same night, last night of the season, come on. That does suck. You probably deserve to win.
All right. So Larkin and Hellebuck micro events land in the
don't
yes
tell me
pile.
who it was yet, but
no, I'm not.
Later on,
they're anonymous. I already told you.
Well,
but I'm going to keep. I will keep everybody else anonymous.
Okay.
Okay.
How are they anonymous? What was it? A tweet?
No, they just didn't put in any. They didn't fill out the part where I said, "Please include your name and pronouns."
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a break.
Okay. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. And we're back. And I hesitated. Like, I know what you're listening to. I didn't have to say before I said Keeping Karlsson. But it's just
Brian. It's been like 5 ads ago.
Unfamiliar territory for me. All right. I liked it though. Maybe I should do that more often.
Go for it.
Okay. Our next loser placed first in the regular season and locked up a bye. And they have something in common with the last loser, which is that we're talking micro events. Like these tiny game pieces that happen. They're like, I can't believe that happened today to me. So this person, in the week before their finals, they were in a matchup that seemed inconsequential. All right. Mm-hmm. And they were up by a point.
Wait, in a matchup that seemed inconsequential a week before the finals? How does that happen?
In the week before the playoffs.
Oh, the week before the playoffs. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Like they'd already locked up a bye. They were first in the league in the regular season.
So then why should it matter?
And this is in the
I guess we'll find out. Okay. Maybe I don't understand something.
That's a great accomplishment.
And so they had locked up first overall. They'd locked up the President's Trophy.
First in the regular season, locked up a bye.
Okay.
And a week before the playoffs, matchup that didn't seem to matter, they won by less than a point.
Okay.
Or so it seemed.
Okay.
On Monday, they went back in.
Stat correction.
And saw that there was a stat correction. The matchup result had changed. Carter Verhaeghe on March 7th. Do you know the scorekeeper gave Carter Verhaeghe 2 extra shots that he did not deserve, apparently? So that took away a point from our submitter, who then lost a job over this by 3/4 of a point to our friend Underpants Gnomes. This is in tier 3 for Lunda of the
but who cares? It's a matchup that doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, but the person that they lost to went on to finish second overall, like after playoffs, which is like that's trivia. Okay, that's just there. Anyway, the stat correction seemed inconsequential to our submitter. But it was very consequential to the others. It changed the seeding of the other teams of 3rd and 4th place. And so the team that our submitter faced in the semifinals changed because of this change in seeding. And they ended up having to play a team with the best team in the league, the team like just going wild. In the playoffs, there's a team that just starts ripping it up, like the Florida of your fantasy playoffs. So they're just going wild. They had a record-breaking week. Our submitter had multiple injuries. So if the stat correction hadn't happened, they would have they checked, okay? Because I've done this too. You keep track of everyone's points, like, oh yeah, I would have beaten that total. I would have been fine. And guess what? Not only would I have won my semifinals matchup against the team that I would have played if not for the stat correction, but I also had more points than anybody else in the final week of the season. So I likely would have won it all, but ended up coming in third because of the stat correction and a little bit of injuries. And Elon, the stakes were high here. This is Frölunda. So
so this person would have won their matchup against anyone else in that semifinals?
They would have beaten the seed that they were expected to face.
Okay,
if not for the stat
would they
correction.
have beaten the other two teams?
Or
I guess there's only 4 teams left. No, so would they have beat the other team?
They know who they would have played if not for the stat correction.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is like, would they have maybe won that matchup except against a lot of teams they would have lost because of these injuries and whatnot? Like, did they have a really good week and they just went up against a juggernaut who they weren't even supposed to play? Or did they like not even have like that amazing of a week?
I think it was more, it sounds to me like the story is more the former. And remember that like this is tier 3 of the cupful. So first place in tier 3.
Go to tier 1.
Yeah, this costs our submitter tier 1.
Yeah, now they're going to tier 2 like a chump.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in tier 3 next year, by the way.
I'm going to be in tier. Am I in tier 4 or 5?
I guess so. We'll check and see. Kevin knows. We posted it. Did we post it?
I think you posted. I don't. You've calculated it. I don't know if you
I think we posted and shared it. If you're in the cupful, go make sure that you got placed in the right tier based on the rules. But so Brian, you can do that. Okay, so this is tough. Like, did you deserve to win? I feel like if you deserve to win, you would have won the matchup. And I know you're saying injuries, but I don't know the details of that, so I can't comment on your injuries. It's bad luck. I'm not going to say you deserve to win. Like, I guess because of the stat correction, because it's like who you play, who is even paying attention. Okay, this is how I would say you deserve to win. Let's say you purposely were like gaming things out for the last few weeks because you knew who you wanted to play in that semifinals, and like you like timed it all perfectly and you like set yourself up to play the team you wanted to play, and then the stat correction messed with you. Then I could be like, okay, well, you had a strategy. But here it's like it's always random who people play in the semifinals anyways. It's not as if you like wanted to play one team or the other. So I'm gonna say no pile. Like we can't. There can only be one winner, right? So what do you think, Brian? Do you think I'm making a bad call here?
No. I guess like the like it comes down to whether you think a stat correction is unjust.
But even if it is, I just think of it like who you play in the playoffs is random. Like, you're playing a team that was seated lower than you.
Sure. Well, yeah, but I think all of that was just an illustration that this was a championship winning team.
Yeah. I think that you should really be saying the reason you lost is because we don't have like 2-week playoff matchups, or so, like which would make things fair. Yeah, it sucks. Like in head to head, you could have a great team all year and then just have like one bad luck week in the playoffs. Both your teams doesn't do as well, or like your opponent just goes insane. And here's like your opponent could have been someone else. But I guess the reason why I'm saying it's a no is just because it's like I just feel like you play who you play, and it's like it's not as if you even noticed that the stat correction was going to bother you in the moment. Just later. I'm sure I could go back and find some like years
Cosmic.
where I've Brian, like I lost in our keeper league in the finals, right? So I haven't looked into like who I could have maybe played if something happened differently. Like I haven't looked into that yet, but maybe if I did, I could find out, oh, that team just barely made it to it's Edward's team, by the way. I should give Edward credit. Edward's the big winner. Like maybe Edward almost lost some other matchup, but there was a tiebreaker. I haven't even looked into it, but like I'm not going to go down that road because I'm not like a complainer. Not to say this person's like a complainer, but like
we've invited everyone to complain. Also, I like that you said you'd be mean, and you're like, oh, like it's okay, I get it. Like if you were really being like playing the heel here, you would. But maybe I don't have it in me anymore,
like I used to.
Some people might say you're just a natural at it.
Yeah, some people on this call might say.
Yeah. Well, I think like I would also say like, how often does a player get miscredited with 2 extra shots?
Yeah, what
like that's like
there?
2 separate events. How can you like they just ticked it twice in the wrong box, but it was still like the loss would have happened even if they only lost 1 Carter Verhaeghe shot.
What do you think about stat corrections? Maybe we should have like a cutoff. It should be like an hour after the game. Like when the game's over, they should all get together, any questionable things, look at them. You got 1 hour to like make and then change it. Don't like wait till the next day.
You know what I want? Like, how people want the refs to do press afterwards, like meet the media. I think stats keepers should do the same.
It's so boring. It looked like a shot to me.
You know what? You made a mistake in the stats. I want to know why. I want to know why, and I want to know what you're doing to fix it.
I thought the goalie touched it. It turned out he didn't.
Remember, there was like who was it? Shoot me. He won't, because I took 2 of his away. There was a team early, was it this season or last, that was like getting a reputation. I feel like it was Tampa, but like the stats are being changed like all the time. Like there was like a series of 3 or 4 games where like the stats were so completely wrong every time. I don't know if anyone listening can remember that.
Okay, so tweet us at
Karlsson. That's in the no pile. All right, Elon.
Here's no pile.
Okay. We're moving away from micro events and we're going into bigger.
Can I say something quickly?
Yeah.
I know we're like trying to get Andrew's saying I love finding out I won at 5 a.m. Here's my favorite thing. I like because you could actually look in advance at the stat corrections. I love this happened to me once. It was the greatest night of my life. Like I was in like a playoff matchup. I think Brian was in the league that we were like co-managing where we kind of hated everyone.
Yeah.
And like we lost, but like we looked and then we knew that we actually won this playoff matchup because of a stat correction.
I remember this.
And I remember the person was like bragging in the league chat and we purposely like just didn't say anything. And we're just like, like good game. But we knew. And I remember like going to bed like so excited for the next morning for that person to see that actually because they were expecting they're going to the next round of the playoffs. And like I knew it was so delicious. And the next day, of course, it's just like, what the hell? What is that? And it's like, oh, stat correction, man. Sorry. And then I think we went on to win or something. I don't know. It's such a great feeling.
Yeah, the surprise stat correction is good. The stealth stat correction.
Yeah, it's fun when you know about it and the other person doesn't. Yeah, but it's not fun when it happens to you. Obviously, in either way.
You know what else isn't fun so that was since it's in the no pile. I will thank Colleen for her submission, and you've got the good foundation to move up to tier 1 next year. Go show them what you're made of.
I got to tier 1 from a tier 2 win, so.
Wow.
Whatever that's worth. And then I won the championship.
Humble brag there. Oh, double.
It's not a humble brag. It's the real brag.
A humbler brag.
I feel like people use the term humble brag so much. I literally am bragging about how I got to tier 1.
I actually don't think people use it that much. I've used it 3 times on this show, which is probably more than any of us have heard it in the last year.
I think more people brag than humble brag, though. I think humble brag is a subset.
I think bragging has become more acceptable, more trendy. It's trendier to brag.
How many of these do we have, by the way?
A bunch more. Here we go.
At some point we should end part 1 then of the show, but we don't have to do that now. Or let's just do a long part 1. F it. I don't care. We're actually no longer on Blue Wire, so we don't have any rules of like when we do ads anymore. So we can do what we want. So let's just do one big mega show. No one's going to be like, oh, why didn't you split it into 2 shows so that you could have more ads? So we didn't feel like it. Okay. So here we go, Brian. I'm ready. Just you start, make an ad break when you want or don't. I'm not the host.
Elon with the fully inside baseball rant that will matter to very few people. But thanks for doing it. And we love. Thank you to our new network, iHeartRadio.
Spreaker. Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, you said iHeartRadio and I said Spreaker.
Do we disagree on who our new network is?
It's Spreaker, which is a subsidiary of iHeartMedia.
I think we're hosted on Spreaker, but we're part of the iHeartRadio network.
I do think so.
Oh, God.
Okay, go to keepingkarlsson.com. Spreaker is like from iHeartMedia.
Yeah, but it's like Megaphone is from Spotify.
Right. Someone tell us, any listener, tell us what network we're on.
Also, I've said iHeartRadio and iHeart Podcast, but it's definitely iHeartMedia.
Okay, let's go, Brian.
Where are we? Okay.
In the world. Okay.
All right. Here's something, Elon. I don't know how much I feel like most people with this problem did not write in because they're like, no, it doesn't matter. And even this submitter was like, I know this is boring. It still sucks though. And it's bad injury luck. They crushed everyone in their league all year. Had won 20 of 21 matchups. All right. Like it can't be more definitive, more decisive.
You built an incredible
champion
team
than that.
Let's hear how many injuries we're talking.
Okay. So these were the injuries that when they got to the playoffs that they were dealing with. Kaprizov, Schmaltz, Krejci, Fiala, Josi, Theodore, Aho. What do you say? That's the whole story.
So this was like what, the semifinals, I guess, or did they make it to the finals?
I think they didn't even say how far they got.
Just depressing.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a lot. So Kaprizov, can you put them in order of like how good they are? Like when they would have been drafted? We're talking
Kaprizov, Aho,
Josie,
Fiala.
wow.
Then Theodore Schmaltz.
And then
Krejci.
That's really hard. That sucks. Like you probably would have won if you had all those people. I'm assuming.
Well, they won 20 of 21 matchups all season with those people.
I'd love a little more detail. Like how much did you lose by in your like matchup that you lost? Like how close, because if it was like close and like who did you pick up as the replacements? Like did you make bad calls? Like could you have won? Okay, here's what, and you're not gonna be able to answer this, but I'm just putting out the thought. If let's say you could have still won if you did better streaming, but you kind of dropped the ball, then maybe you didn't deserve to win. But if you like kind of did everything right and like it's just these injuries, you probably deserve to win. So let's put in the yes pile for now. But I only want one injury one to make it through. So if you have another injury one that like pulls on my heartstrings more, we might knock this one out of the yes pile. But for now, I think this is like pretty terrible. You lost like Aho, Kaprizov, and Josie right there are like three like top game breakers.
Yeah, 3 of your first 5 picks.
And then Fiala, like
maybe
incredible.
3 of your first 3 or 4 picks.
Yeah.
That
sucks.
Oof.
Sorry to hear that. So you're in the yes pile for now.
All right, yes pile. Someone else, as a joke, said Connor McDavid is the reason they lost, and it's time to split up his goals and assists. We have, by the way, before we open the couple, we're gonna have a lot of talk about how
to deal with like the first.
A lot of our exit survey feedback was about the first overall pick, how to deal with it. We tried the 3rd round reversal this year, but also like the question is how to deal with Connor McDavid, right? Like if the first several picks were roughly similar, wouldn't be a big deal. But when you've got this cheat code in there, so they joke that it's time to split up his goals and assists.
I guess like the question is like, do we think this will happen again? Like in the playoffs, like, Draisaitl's right up there with McDavid. Like it's not so like just during the season, just somehow like McDavid was just so much better than everyone by so much. But we'll see. I don't know. I feel like I would need to see 2 seasons of McDavid like just destroying second overall before we like change the rules too much. That's my initial gut feeling, but that's not even the purpose of this show. We're going to have a whole show talking about the couple rules, so I guess I'll save it for that.
Yeah, let's save it. Okay,
because like 2 seasons ago McDavid didn't do this. I think Matthews even averaged more couple points per game than McDavid 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
So,
okay. All right, here we have a story. This one is a long one. Okay, so buckle up. Well, it's long because it's about 3 different fantasy leagues where our submitter lost in the final in all 3 of them.
I mean, I kind of feel like you should like, I'm not going to give you bonus points for losing more. Like, I think we'll decide which is the one that's like the most, and then that's your entry.
Okay. Really? You think that, I mean, you buy enough, you're in enough finals, the chance of losing all of them.
But the question isn't like why like I deserve to win like at least one league. It's like a particular league. I thought it's like the way we're doing. But okay, let's hear
all right, if that's how you want to parse this. Okay, so the first one, let's start there. And the first one, it's a Yahoo multi-category league. I had a fantastic roster. I was going to win the points category by a mile. Was a bit worse than my finals opponent in peripherals. All I needed was to have 2 relatively good performances by my goalies. Just 2.
Okay.
But one that they couldn't get a performance out of was Sergei Bobrovsky, who I don't know if you remember, Elon, but Bobrovsky lost to Ottawa on March 27th. Okay, he gave up 4 goals on 26 shots. Then he was ill. All right, March 29th versus Toronto, and our submitter was like, okay, he's sick. He'll be back next game.
And then Alex Lyon played the rest of the season.
Well, actually, it didn't totally go that way.
Okay, my mistake.
Oh, sorry, it did. I was thinking of a different question in a different story. Okay, and then Alex Lyon went crazy. Yeah, exactly. Okay, but meanwhile, our submitter is just like, okay, well, I'm waiting. Bobrovsky's ill. Oh, ill again? It's okay. He'll be back. And I'm not going to waste a move on replacing him because Bobrovsky's going to come back. right? I don't have too many moves. I don't want to use them on a goalie. Bob is going to come back. But yeah, so he missed 4 games while ill. Elon, could you name? I did not recognize this name at all. Could you name the goalie who backed up Alex Lyon for the nights that Sergei Bobrovsky was ill?
Okay, can you give me like multiple choice? If you say it, I think I'll know it.
Okay, I'm gonna.
I guess it's hard.
All right, no, I'm gonna multiple choice it. Here we go.
Okay.
I'm gonna name you all the goalies on the Charlotte Checkers, who played a game for the Charlotte Checkers this year, which is Florida's AHL affiliate. Spencer Knight.
No.
Evan Fitzpatrick.
No.
Mac Guzda.
Yeah, that's who it was.
What? Cam Johnson?
No, it's Matt Guzda.
How do you know this?
I saw it. I don't know. I'm like retweeting lines and goalie stuff. I know the stuff. Like I just forgot his name, but yeah.
That's very impressive. Yeah, so Mac
it's not that impressive. I didn't know his name. Like,
but you recognize it. That's more than I would have gotten. Out of Knoxville, Tennessee, 22 years old, 897 save percentage in 29 games with Charlotte this year, first pro season. Anyway,
speaking of Sergei Bobrovsky,
yeah,
how about that series versus the Leafs?
Little renaissance.
Oh my god,
yeah, little rebirth.
Let me ask you this, Brian. Let's say Bobrovsky leads the Panthers to the Cup. Let's say it happens this year, which is possible, right? Just two more series to go. Will you then say that the Panthers were actually smart to sign him to that contract when they did, and for the amount they did? Like results oriented, it's like, hey, they wanted a cup, they got a cup.
Okay.
How can you fault them?
I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Okay.
So Jonathan Quick signed for 10 years at 5.8 million, or it was what was the cap hit here? Yeah, the cap hit was just under 6 million.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he had already won a cup, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that contract was worth it?
But did they win a cup with him on that contract?
I'm going down to their season by season record. Here we go. Okay.
I don't think
thrilling. So. Yeah, no, I also don't think so, but I should check.
Should I put an edit point here?
Yeah, definitely put an edit point. Okay, what year did the contract start? Okay, the contract started in 13-14, and they won the cup that year.
So they signed him to this contract, and then that year they won the cup.
Yeah, they signed him to the contract on July 1st, 2012. They had won the cup in 2011-12.
Mm-hmm.
And then
if they signed him to a contract and then that year they won the cup, then that was a good idea.
It was an extension that he signed in 2012, but it only kicked in starting in 13-14.
And that's the year they won.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, brilliant. Because he probably wouldn't have signed
that. So after that, they didn't make the playoffs. They lost in the first round. They didn't make the playoffs. They lost in the first round.
I don't care.
Didn't make. Lost in the first round. Lost in the first round.
Brian, how many cups did the Sens win in that time? How many cups did the Leafs win in that time?
So So one Stanley Cup justifies that.
Well, with Jonathan Quick, I think it's almost better because it's like it's like sometimes you sign these contract goalies to a contract knowing that the end of the contract will be bad, but you're just like focused on the here and now. So it's like if they signed him, they won the cup. The rest is gravy, right? That they just need him.
What's interesting is they signed him immediately after they won the cup, and then they lost in the conference finals the next year on his old contract, the end of his old contract.
Like, look, obviously we can go into like the advanced stats and be like, oh, actually he only played this above average, and like you could be like, oh, they could have won the cup with another goal, blah blah blah. I think that you can't fault.
Right, or should they just have waited till the next season? And not, but
maybe he would have left. They wouldn't have stayed with the team, and then they wouldn't have won the cup.
I don't know. You'd think if you're ready to commit for 10 years, one season, that you might be ready to commit 10 years. Anyway. Okay. So the question was.
I mean, I didn't mean it to even be such a long convo because I know we have a lot of these contests. I was just thinking it's interesting because we've been. I think probably it was like a bad move, right? It was a crazy contract. Bob's been so bad in general. He got didn't even start the playoffs. But I mean, it's pretty cool he must feel good, right? Imagine you're Bobrovsky and everyone's been telling you, man, you're so overpaid. You suck. Now, if he wins a cup, he'll be able to always say, I guess I wasn't that overpaid. They never won a cup before me. Now here I am.
I would say one cup makes the deal worthwhile.
I think so too. Especially, I mean, assuming he's like the reason, like a big reason, and like,
Yeah.
I think he's like a big reason they won that series against Toronto.
Yeah.
Like, do they win that series if it's
I mean,
Alex
it still
Lyon in
makes
net?
a
I don't
lot
know.
of the rest of it a waste. But if he can carry the team to one Stanley Cup,
Yeah,
fine.
especially if it's a team that's like never won before, it's huge.
Yeah.
All right. So
Well,
sorry. So what are we doing?
the irony is that they, he didn't carry them into, like, he was terrible
Well, yeah, I
leading
know.
up, like, right, and then he got sick, and then he backed up the final 3 regular season games, and then for you remember Bob backed up for the first 2.5 games in the playoffs too, and now on this crazy run. Okay, and so the submitters' other goalie, by the way, is Freddie Anderson, who, remember, he's just looking for a couple solid starts here, and Freddie Anderson puts up one of his worst weeks of the season. 2-3-0 record during the matchup, and 902 save percentage, 1 quality start, 2 really bad starts out of 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
got goalied, basically, waiting for Bob to start. This is one,
but
remember,
he could
this
have
is 3 leagues, got goalied, waiting for Bob to start, never started, and then hoping Anderson would show up and did not.
But he could have added a goalie, right? Like, it's not as if like there was no way to win. Like, he got goalied, but also it sounds like there was an out here, and he chose to take the risk of not adding a goalie because he thought that the illness would be enough. But I think you could have, we were talking on the podcast about like they should just keep playing Alex Lyon because they need to win to just make it in the playoffs, and Lyon's hot. And Bobrovsky had let in like 5-5. I'm looking at his game log here. He was doing terribly before he got ill. Like his last 3 games he played at the regular season, he let in 5, 4, and 4 goals. So maybe you shouldn't have been depending on him in the first place. So I'm going to say no, but this person has 3 entries for some reason, which doesn't seem fair, but okay.
All right. Well, they're already behind the 8 ball for you. So in the second
I'm
one,
already like low on this person.
this is also a tie break situation. So ESPN multi-category league, they lost in a tie break. But this is why they lost. Okay. They lost because they didn't see until very late in the matchup that ESPN, they're playing on ESPN, did not count the last day of the NHL regular season.
They count every day except the last
and their
day.
final scoring. And like the submitter hypothesizes that this is because the last 2 games on April 14th were rescheduled from earlier in the season.
Oh, and they weren't.
And so like they don't get included. But
and then
they
like, could this person have
thought
made different moves if they knew that
they can't? No, they would have had a better chance to win.
Right, because they wouldn't have streamed in, let's say, the team based on their schedule, assuming they had those games. They listened to Matchup Maximizer. I said who to add.
Yeah, they were assuming that they would have every day's games, and they found out too late that they were going to miss a day's worth of games.
I mean, definitely this is a big thumbs down for ESPN. I'm still going to say no, because like, I'll bet you other people in your league do that. You know, like I think that's something that you could have found out. Like when I'm like playing in the playoffs, especially, I go through every day of my matchup and set my roster just so I can see, you know, like how many, you know, I go through my roster. I'm like obsessing, right? So I think I would have noticed. So if I would have noticed, then you should have noticed. So that's a no. But that's
all right. And then their third reason, well, okay. So we're going to get into a couple drafty. Well, okay.
Can I say one thing? Sorry, just quickly. Like, but to be fair, I haven't used ESPN in a long time. So if it turns out that you could have like gone to that day of like, you know, like if you could have like kind of gone to that day when you're going day by day with your roster, and if that day showed up but just wasn't part of the matchup, then maybe there's a better case, because then I maybe would have not noticed. But if it like sort of didn't let you even click to that date, then you should have been able to figure it out.
Right. Okay. And the third loss really was just a loss. Like they lost in good cup.
Okay, well,
tier 6 Bossy. And then but they said, and we're going to hear a little bit more about this later, part of it was picking Landeskog in the third round. But we have other Landeskog.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah. Well, okay.
If you make a choice like that, you're taking a risk. You pick an injured player.
Let's dig more into that later. We have a couple more. I have another goalie story coming up, but before we get to it, how about we take another break? You are still listening to Keeping Karlsson. Okay, you're good with that? Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, welcome back. We are going over the reasons why our listeners lost, but shouldn't have, and deciding whether they really should have anyway, or no, you're right, you shouldn't have lost. That's unjust. We just heard a story, well, several stories, one about the dates changing, and it sounded like you had more sympathy for that than the goalie situation. So, but none of those made the yes pile that we're collecting so far in the yes pile. We
And
have.
I'm aware that this is kind of like maybe like the later we are into this, the harder it is to get into the yes pile, which might not be fair. But blame Brian for the order.
Well, you've set the bar.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So bad trade is in the yes pile, right? From the very first story. Mm-hmm. Then the Larkin and Hellebuck random events or seemingly random, unlikely events. And then the list of injuries also made the yes pile, which was surprising. Right. Okay, let's see if this goalie story tugs on your heartstrings.
I don't see why that's surprising. I think it's okay. I think that injury thing is a contender to win this whole thing. But
okay. Went into the week projected to get over 300 points in Cupful, says our submitter. Wow. That is impressive. A 300-point week is big, and that was a 40-point projected win over their opponent, who was projected for 260. If you do the math, our submitter had a 9-game advantage. Like they were scheduled to have 9 more games played, so up by 40 in the projections. 9 more games, 300-point week. Yes, wow. yes. You're set. Everything's about to go right.
You can't even. Why even play the matchup? It's over. Clearly.
And then this is a goalie story, almost entirely a goalie story. They had 8 goalie starts in this matchup.
Okay.
All right. Altogether, their 8 goalie starts garnered them 14 Cupful points. So it's safe to say that a goalie start on average this season, about 4.5 fantasy points is fair. So like you could have expected about 35-40 fantasy points from here.
And they got how many? 12?
14. Yeah. And guess what? 3 of them were Sergei Bobrovsky. Yeah, wow. And one of them was Alex Lyon, who stopped just 18 out of 23 to lose to Philly 6-3. All right. And that was the last Alex Lyon start where he was bad. Because then Bob got back in the net. He lost 3 more. And then that's when Alex Lyon stepped in and saved the season for the Panthers with 6 straight wins and an overtime loss. And of course, Pittsburgh not closing the deal on their end. Speaking of Pittsburgh, so beyond the goalies, this submitter also had, Elon, you're gonna have some empathy here, Chris Letang on their roster, who was mired in a 6-game pointless streak.
But you know what? As someone who also has Chris Letang, or had Chris Letang, never again, unless he falls really far, I guess. But I should have traded him. There was a time when he got hot, and Lewis offered me Hedman for him, and I was like, when Hedman was losing power play, and I was like, I'll stick with Letang. I should have traded for Hedman. So I don't know. You maybe could have also traded Chris Letang in that one moment.
Letang, by the way,
where he was good.
He was pointless. There was more than one moment. Like you and I have.
Ryan loves Letang.
I do. I think Letang had a pretty good season, and he had 19 shots over these 6 games.
He paced for 53. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He had a lot of shots.
He had a lot of shots. He had a bad. Like I think there was some bad luck involved in Letang's
Well, he had a lot of off ice stuff and injuries.
I mean, like everything went wrong for him off the ice. It was a sad season for him, and never got the appropriate status. Okay, so goalied Letang and Evander Kane had a 4-game pointless stretch where he had just 8 shots on goal too. So Kane and Letang drastically underproducing, plus getting less than 2 goalie points per start over the course of 8 goalie starts. And our submitter lost by 26, 301 points to 275. And that's the story. Where are you at? Did they deserve to lose?
Did you deserve to? Well, it's more like, did they deserve to win? Right? I don't think they deserve to lose. Like, I mean, like you set yourself up well, but did you deserve to win? No, I don't think so. I think like you had a huge advantage, and then your players didn't come through for you. It's like this is fantasy hockey. Like that's kind of how it goes. Like sometimes your player, like if anything, your opponent would have complained if they lost me. Like, oh, I had a 9-game deficit. I had no chance going into it. Like you got to give some credit to just like that person picked the players that did better. It's not like anything that happened was so crazy. It's not like Connor McDavid went pointless for 4 games. It was Evander Kane, who's not like, he's not like a point per game player ever. So it could happen. And goalies, I mean, your goalies are like Bobrovsky and Alex Lyon. Like, we're not talking about like you had Vasilevsky who got you only
Oh,
12
well,
points.
I can tell you the other goalies. Okay. They
Okay.
got starts from three from Bobrovsky, one from Alex Lyon, two from John Gibson, two from Phoenix Copley.
Okay. So it's not as if you like went into it with like a murderer's row of goalies. And it's like shocking how you like couldn't get points. Like, these are goalies that are like coin flips for the most part. Phoenix Copley, you and Alex Lyon, you picked out of free agency. John Gibson's terrible, unfortunately. Maybe he's good if he could ever play on a good team. Well, congratulations on a great season. And I'm sure you'll win next year, considering how strong your team building was. I'm not saying you made any mistakes. I'm not saying I would have done anything differently. I love going in with goalies who I got out of free agency, so I was able to get studs in the draft. So it's like I do the same thing, but then you have to expect that maybe you're not. But you could have even had good goalies and they wouldn't have done well because goalies are unpredictable. So bad luck, but I don't think you deserve to win if we're using that term.
All right. Well, thanks, Trev. You're in the no pile. And by the way, the person who's also in the no pile with their 3 losses, Ivan. So thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for playing.
It's like a list of my favorite patrons here. It's all the great contributors in the Discord.
Oh wow. I'm hurt. Elon is another patron. I'm not. You didn't call me your favorite.
Of my don't be like that. You're just trying to make jokes.
All right. Our next
for jokes.
Our next loser.
How many do we have left?
Just I got to roll through these. Okay. Lost because of head-to-head matchups.
These people are going to be mad. They're going to be like, you guys didn't give me the win because you were running short on time for the podcast and you had to rush.
We're going to get why I lost submissions in the next show. So they drafted Landeskog in the 3rd round. Okay. Mm-hmm. The day before, because we did a slow draft. This is a cupful.
Oh, this is before it was announced.
Before it was announced he was injured and would miss most, but actually all of the season.
That sucks.
This person still managed to finish 3rd in their, at a point. This person still managed to finish with the 3rd most points in their division, but they only finished 7th in the final rankings because of a head-to-head randomness. So like in the standings, 3rd in points, 7th in standings, right? Because you're just facing. So for example, they lost matchups to the 13th and 14th place teams who they scored 600 more points than over the course of the season. But those last place basement teams put up huge weeks against our submitter.
I mean, terrible luck.
You faced them at the wrong time. And then our submitter went on to put up the most points of any team in their division through the whole playoffs and would have won each of their matchups and finished 1st, but instead finished 7th. By winning the consolation brackets. Like they tracked, right? They're like, okay, if I was where I should be, I would have been against this team and I would have won. But it sounds like they said they had the highest points in the semis. They would have beaten either 1st or 2nd. They would have beaten the finals team in the finals. So based on their points for the win would have taken them to tier 2, but instead they're going to stay in tier 4 where maybe I'll run into them next year. They rank 75th in our fast rank rankings. That's the 88th percentile. That's amazing.
So Brian, it sounds to me like you're in trouble if you play this person. This sounds like someone who
I would have rather they got promoted.
Like, look, I'm going to say this is like an awesome fantasy player. Clearly they built an awesome team, even without a 3rd round pick. I'm not gonna say you deserve to win. If this is like you deserve to win, like I don't know if you would have won the whole. Well, I guess you are though, saying that they had the most points throughout the playoffs and they should have made the playoffs. You know what? Okay, I am gonna say you deserve to win. Like head-to-head sucks sometimes, and that's really bad luck. You would think that with the 3rd most points overall, that should be enough to get you in the top 6 to at least sneak into the playoffs. If this person's telling the truth that they had the most points of all the playoff teams all throughout the playoffs, then you probably did deserve to win. So yeah, put it in the yes pile.
Head-to-head matchups gets into the yes pile. Here we go. We got a few people who had bad drafts, and they're saying that's why I didn't win. All right, maybe I'll share a few.
Okay,
and then you can go back and pick. So one person actually, I feel like I deserved to lose. They said the only good player I drafted was Kuzmenko. They also drafted Marco Rossi, Nils Lundqvist, Adam Boqvist, I
Is this this
assume.
person's first season
Maybe it's
playing
Jesper
fantasy hockey?
Boqvist. I don't even know which Boqvist. Simon Edvinsson and Luke Kunin.
Brian, this is like this person's first year playing. I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
or like first year in like a reasonably deep keeper league
Like I
or
think that
dynasty setup where they
Oh.
picked a bunch of guys who like just didn't arrive.
this isn't a cupful. This is like
No.
a
Oh,
dynasty or something.
I hope not.
Yeah, this sounds like someone who is like a hype person. You know, like you're drafting because there's like hype around these people. And I think sometimes you gotta just take some conservative picks in your draft. You know, you save your last couple, sure, for hype guys. Luke Kunin, because the San Jose had those first early games.
Yeah, I remember
sure,
that.
for sure, get him at the end.
Luke Kunin hype.
Yeah.
2 points in his first 2 games. But I think it was it was that deployment plus preseason. He also had he put a bunch of shots on net in games.
But yeah,
three,
at some point you
three
need
through
to
5.
No, so I'm not saying you shouldn't have picked Luke Kunin at the end of the draft, but it's like, how many swings are you going to take?
Yeah,
like assume each swing is only going to have like a 20% chance of hitting.
Oh,
so
if that.
Yeah. So yeah,
no
obviously this person's just joking because obviously they don't think they deserve to win. So they're just telling us that they suck.
Shout out.
Hopefully you learned the lesson and you'll be better next year.
I was just about to name them and now you just thanks Navi for sharing your story with us. All right, here's another bad draft story. And Elon, I had to do some research for this one. Because they said that their team missed the playoffs the moment they were inspirited, like I guess like a spirit inhabited their body or presence. They were invaded.
Can you tell me the whole sentence?
They were inspirited by yokai.
What?
So I had to look this up. So yokai, which means literally strange apparition in a translation from Japanese, are a class of supernatural entities and spirits in Japanese folklore.
Okay, so they had bad. There is like a saying for like I had bad luck, basically.
Yeah, there's also this show, I guess, or a video game called Yokai Watch. And
is this relevant?
Series of like RPGs into it. Well, yeah, it's like there's like manga adaptations. This is the research. I didn't know. Inspirited by yokai. Okay.
Did they say anything else, or is that all they said?
Yeah, no. Okay. So they went on and said the reason by the yokai was like inhabited their bodies. So they had the first pick overall. They got McDavid, and they thought, okay, like I'm gonna get Jason Robertson too. Like that's the way the draft is gonna work out. And when they went and they had their second pick, Jason Robertson on the board, they passed on him. You know what they took?
Well, who?
They took Patrick Kane.
Well, but what happened to the part where they were planning on taking Jason Robertson?
Well, this is where the yokai comes in.
I see.
They said they were watching themselves. It was like an out of body experience, shouting like, "No, take Robertson!" But a specific yokai named Desi Devable, who can cause anyone he possesses to do actions without hesitation, was responsible for this out of character drafting. And like for a visual, Desi Devable is a tallish blue devil with black horns, yellow eyes, and a purple tuft of chest hair.
This is the first entry we've ever had where the person's like, I should have won, but a spirit made me make the wrong choices. And if I wasn't inhabited by the spirit, I would have made better choices and I would have won.
They said, they basically said I made 2 good picks. And the rest were horrible accidents because of Desi Devable, the Blue Devil yokai. And
this person only made 2 good picks?
I'm going to read their draft to you. Are you ready? So this
McDavid
team
doesn't count as a good pick, by the way. That's an obvious pick.
Finished dead last in Tier 7 Clayson. They said not even counting McDavid.
Okay.
They finished 3-8. They won 3 matchups all season. All right, here's their draft, top to bottom. McDavid, Patrick Kane, Evander Kane.
It's fine.
Jack Hughes.
Great.
Evan Bouchard.
I mean,
at 70.
Too little, too late.
Overall.
That'll be great value next year.
Yeah, Miro Heiskanen with the pick like immediately.
Good. Great
It was like
pick.
on the snake, right? Tyler Bertuzzi, Drake Batherson, Matty Beniers, Seth Jarvis, Carter Hart, Noah Hannafin, Kem Talbot, Jake Sanderson, Jacob Voracek, Andrei Kuzmenko, Kaapo Kakkonen, and Brendan Gallagher.
Yeah, every pick is bad after you got Heiskanen.
Oh, yeah.
But some of them only
even
in
before,
hindsight.
like Hughes and Heiskanen, good job. Batherson, like kind of worked out.
It's okay.
The rest, I don't want.
We didn't talk much about Batherson in this season.
We didn't. No.
I guess maybe on purpose because of potential off-ice stuff. But he only had 62 points on the year, right? Like the year before, Drake Batherson was almost point per game. So it was like a disappointing season. He took a lot of shots, 3 shots per game.
His shooting percentage just actually got cut in half.
Yeah. So maybe next year he'll be a value guy.
I think so. I think he can still play near point per game.
Okay, Andrew's saying this person beat him.
Andrew.
Sorry.
Okay, and then we have another bad draft story. Oh, so is that a yes pile because
I don't understand why this is an entry.
Inhabited their body?
I mean, I guess I need to know what they would have done if they weren't inhabited by the spirit, and then I could say.
Well, they would have picked Jason Robertson.
Yeah, but what about the rest of the picks?
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to say no for now because we don't have enough information.
Okay. So that's a you know who I am in our Discord group and our patrons. Thanks. That was one of the more entertaining and wild and truly out of body experiences for me on this podcast. So thanks for that, Andy in the chat. Did you see what Andy wrote?
Yeah. You could say it.
Man, and I thought I liked weed as we read through that story. Okay. Here's another bad draft story. I assume that no news was good news with Landeskog, when in fact, no news should have been concerning news. Also took a swing on Campbell.
By the way, did we announce
in the 7th, which didn't help.
We did. I don't think we've mentioned on the show. Landeskog also out for next season.
He's out possibly forever.
So no one should draft Landeskog next year.
I wonder how auto-drafted he's going to be, like how well the platforms are going to bury or not bury him.
I mean, like, because he's not going to be auto-drafted probably just because he didn't play last season also, you know? So, like, I feel like that wouldn't happen. I guess we'll see. Like, if Yahoo gives him a really high... Like, that would be insane for Yahoo to give him a high rank. Even Yahoo, I have more faith in to not do that. But anyway, that's too bad about Landeskog. But you know what? I'll say this. I feel bad for him, obviously. Like, he's a competitor. He wants to play. He wants to win. If he doesn't play again... Like he won a cup his last game. So pretty sweet way to end your career. And he like signed an amazing like long-term contract like right before that. So he's like locked in like money wise. It's not as if he's like, oh no, I could have made so much more money if not for this injury. Like this was probably going to be his last contract anyways. So Landeskog kind of got his in terms of like professional like like accomplishments and the money. So I feel bad more for Colorado than Landeskog, if anything. But obviously he wants to play, so it's sucky. But I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know why I'm saying this.
Yeah, I mean, is this a yes pile or no pile?
No, it's a no pile.
Yeah, it's a no pile. Okay,
I drafted Zach Werenski, and he got injured, and
that was Andy, who we just quoted in the chat, who had that, who shared that story, and also Andrea in the chat was mentioning, you know who I am, who had the yokai, was rid himself of the yokai in the KKPP. He's winning my KKPP division right now. Like he might be on the tier 3 show, or it's the round 3 show if we do a live draft, which could be all kinds of entertaining.
I mean, there's only 4 people on that show because there's gonna be 8 divs and it's only 3 open spots because Dina's gonna take one of them. Actually, she's getting some nepotism here, so she's gonna be on the show. I mean, not nepotism in terms of like she earned her way to round 3, but like to get on the live show. So we have 3 open spots here. So whoever claims them, I'll have to check on the Discord.
Ready?
Yeah.
Last story.
Oh,
this is it.
Then we have to pick a winner.
Do you want to go back and pick the winner of what you've got? Or do you want
it could be a head-to-head? No, let's just do that.
Okay. All right. Last entry was
can I interrupt you for a sec?
Yeah.
Look at my camera right now. You see how like my microphone, my headphone, like cable is coming down?
Is this on the show? This is not on the show. Right?
It's on the show.
This is on the show.
Yeah. See how it's kind of looking like a necklace? Kind of like the way it's coming down?
Do you think you'd look good with a necklace?
I think I look good with a necklace. Like I look so cool when I look at myself here in the image.
You look like somebody who wants to remember their Survivor experience.
I think I'm gonna go buy a necklace.
Like a cord necklace?
Well, I don't know. I just
like fabric.
I just never wore one before, and now I just looked, and for a second I thought,
or like a metal.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I never thought about it.
This is your. You know what you should do? You should just cut the cord off your headphones, tie a knot at the back. You've got your necklace that you look so cool with.
Well, I think it was off the show that we mentioned I got a haircut. I guess it's this like haircut and like this necklace.
Wow.
Thanks, Andy. Andy's
Find
giving
someone
me a
who
lot of
looks
making me
at
feel
you the
really
same
good.
way that Elon looks at himself.
Well, I just wanted to get a second opinion on if you agree that it looks good. I think you're saying it does.
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
what's the last story?
The last story. We talked about some people with some bad drafts. Here's someone who had a good draft, Elon, and they still couldn't win. Um,
So they're bad at
so,
streaming.
some background. They've never won.
Okay.
They've never won ever.
How many times have
We've
they
already
played?
learned from you that this gains no extra points for you from you. This is their 9th season playing fantasy hockey,
Wow.
and they're a patron, and they listen to the show.
I'm surprised they're still a patron. You'd think at some point they'd be like, this
Oh
is not
gosh.
helping me.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do we share in that responsibility for sure.
I know. I feel bad. I feel like we should have helped you get a win by now.
Okay, so well, the overall scope of this is not like they don't really have an excuse why they lost. They just want to know what else they can do to win. Like
Okay.
it's kind of sad. Like this is someone like at their wit's end.
I'd love to help. I mean, we'll post a question in the Discord. That's
Yeah.
what we're there for. Like, do we have an ask and answer, or what's it called? Ask Keeping. What's that?
Inside the Ask Keeping Karlsson category, there's an ask and answer forum.
Yeah. Just post your question there. I'm in there all the time. Anytime it's very quiet right now, you'll get my answer pretty quickly because sometimes I'm at work and then like the page takes too long to load or like whatever. I'm like running a migration and it's like I go to Discord and see what's up. And usually like there's a bunch of questions during the season, right? So I'm just like answer as many as I can and then I have to get back to work. Here it's like if there's like something there, I'm excited because there's not that much lately. So like I'll probably give you a lot of attention. But we'll try to do it on the show quickly. But I can't turn your whole like strategy around.
No, but we're gonna work on it. I think it's our joint, like our cause now. Like the whole purpose of our next season of Keeping Karlsson is to win this.
Well, tell me the person. You're saying it's a no anyways, because you're saying it's not like they deserve to win. They just want help. So we can say who it is. All right. Well, tell me okay. Just read the thing.
Okay. All right. So they play in a couple leagues. 3 seasons of the Cupful. And they've never missed a playoffs either. So like they're good.
Oh, it's like Lewis.
They
Lewis
just
in
can't.
Tier 1 used to always make it to the
Maple Leafs of the Cupful. Yeah. So except he went in the opposite direction this year by not making the playoffs at all.
I mean, hey, join the club, man.
It's hard. So our submitter was in their longest running league, was falling apart, and they saved it by becoming the commissioner, changed it from a cats league to a points league to kind of like revive the league and get everyone interested. And also because like they're already playing the Cupful, so they proposed the same scoring system as the Cupful, basically. Like, guys, let's just start playing this way that I already play and I'm used to. And they said they had a perfect draft, in their words. They had first overall.
Nice.
So McDavid, obviously, they said it almost felt unfair. I dominated the regular season. I had the bye week locked in 4 weeks before the end of the regular season.
Love that.
Rostered all the injured players, who were being dropped as teams tried to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Grabbed all the best streamers ahead of the semi. So like doing everything they should have, right?
So what was like the games played disparity for the semifinals going in? I'd be curious to know. Do we have that?
I don't have that info, but in the semifinals, their opponent just like wrecked them. And they said like the classic, I would have beat both teams in the other semis matchup, but this was 1 week that cost me the whole season.
Brutal.
It's almost like what happened to Mark in Tier 1 of the Cupful
right
this year, right? Like he had everything locked down for a good chunk, a lot of time to prepare. And then Ryan had the week of a lifetime but Ryan's week of a lifetime ended with a championship. And this poor submitter's ended with nothing. It says it keeps happening to me year in, year out. So what else can I do? I've tweaked all the rules to my favor, and that wasn't enough. And like basically acknowledges like, I'm not sure, like I don't think this is a contest entry, but I just needed a shoulder to cry on. It still hurts even after a month. This is sad.
It is sad. Like head to head sucks. It's fun, like because you get to like have the competitiveness and the excitement of like a 1 week match. Like every Sunday you get the excitement of a win or a loss versus season long points. But like, let's be real. Like it's more fair to just do season long, like roto, then it's like the best team wins, right? As opposed to head where there's luck involved. because anything could happen, especially 1 week. Like in my dynasty, we do 2-week playoff matchups, which is more fair, right? Because then like less randomness could come in, and generally the better team has a better chance of winning. So it's just bad luck. Sucks it's happened 9 years in a row or whatever, but like I don't know. I guess like I'd need to know like kind of what decisions you made to. You say you like you streamed in. Like I'd like to know like sort of how exactly you set yourself up for success in the second round. Though I mean in the semis, I guess you're saying that you would have beaten all the other teams and just this team wrecked them. But is there like a move you could have made? Like, is there like any regrets of like if only I streamed it? Like did that team wreck you because they streamed in someone that you also had the option to stream in? And if you would have streamed in that person, you would have won. Maybe you could look back and see if like that was just luck or was it actually a very savvy move that you should have thought of yourself. So there's a lot to it, but sorry, like I don't know. I don't have an answer, but it's like hang in there. You're probably gonna win soon. Sounds like you're a really awesome player. And like Lewis is an awesome player and he's never won the cupful, but he's like great. Like you listen to him on the podcast every week. He knows everything. He knows what he's talking about. So it's just a matter of time. And I'm sure it's just a matter of time for you too. Like, sorry.
All right. So that was Michael. Sorry, Michael.
Which Michael?
Or Michal. I'm not
Okay.
sure. It's spelled like in a European way.
This is someone who's been a patron for 9 years.
Well, three cupful seasons under their belt. I have their Discord username.
How do you spell it?
I'll share it with you.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, good luck. I am rooting for you next year.
All right. And that concludes the show, Elon.
Right,
So or doesn't conclude. Concludes
the
the entry portion. Okay, so we have the bad trade with the commissioner who didn't veto because they had counters, and the manager who took the bad trade, who took Dominic Kubalik for Timo Meyer, and is like, I'll research more next year.
Okay.
Didn't want to counter. Then we have the person
and they
who
would have won, right? It's like they would have won if it wasn't for that. It was points
confirmed.
league.
They would have won by
like
a good amount.
Yeah.
All right.
It's hard to beat.
Second,
you deserve to win.
option.
Like you actually deserve to win, right? Like
yeah.
Like we have one that we can say you did deserve
you
to win.
Did. You straight up deserve to win.
Did someone else deserve to win more?
Can someone beat that? We have the Larkin game winner and the Hellebuck lost shutout.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that one, like, you don't deserve, like, you should have won. Like, it happens. Like, it sucks, but it's like you don't deserve to win.
Right. Like if Hellebuck, if you had gotten the same result, but it had all happened in like the first 10 minutes.
And
of the
also,
game.
like, I think of it like this: like Larkin scores a lot of goals. Like he's likely to get a game-winning goal. Like it's not like a random weird guy got a game-winning goal. It was Dylan Larkin. If anyone in the shirt's going to get it, it's probably him. And like if Hellebuck is a good goalie, it's probably not going to get you a shutout most games. So it's like it's not actually like such crazy things that happen. It's just the timing. So you made it this far, but so who was that? Since we never announced it. Oh, you're muted.
That was an anonymous entry.
Oh,
so
right.
We'll never know. Okay, but they're out. The next one was injuries. So that was the in order of importance: Kaprizov, Josi, Aho, Fiala, Schmaltz, Theodore.
Okay. And what was the story again? Like, did they like have such an amazing regular season? Like they dominated
they
the
won.
whole thing?
Yeah, their record was 20 and 1.
Yeah. Okay, and what's the last one?
And the final one was the head-to-head matchups with our player who had
the
third best points for 75th out of 600 Cupful teams, 88th percentile, would have won the playoffs had they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
But they didn't make the playoffs because they just kept facing every team on their best week of the season.
Sounds like all three of these people deserve to win. Like they made all the right decisions and they should have won. Do you concur with that, Brian? Like, do you concur that all these three people like deserve to win?
Yeah, I mean, but injuries happen,
Okay,
like
injuries are out. Sorry,
and I know it sucks, but like it hurts even more that it happened all at once and at the end of the season. And you had, I mean, that is an overwhelming slate of injuries, though. So I get it. It's a little more extreme than the usual injuries.
Okay, so injuries are out, but like terrible luck, of course. So we're going with either.
That was Julien. Thanks, thanks, Julien.
Okay, sorry, 10 more. I'm just telling Dina that we'll be doing 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I said like I gotta keep it short, and then you know what happens? I come on, I have a good time, I enjoy.
But now I need to end. So okay, so all right, so it's back on the air.
Yeah.
All right, so we are between the head-to-head, They would have won if they just didn't have the weirdest luck where even though they had the third most points, they ended up in seventh. And then the person where someone else made the trade. I'm going to say, I think we should both decide. Okay, I'm going to tell you my pick, but or should I just say the winner right now, Brian, or do you want to each give our opinion?
No, you name the winner. I think it's even between these two. I knocked out the injuries.
I'm going to say that I think the winner is the head-to-head person. And here's why. The trade thing is like sucks so much, but it's almost there's just something to me where it's like you did deserve, like you clearly deserve to win, but it's also like such an annoying thing that I don't want to end the show in a negative way where it's like you should have won if not for this moron and this terrible GM. Like, you know, you should probably leave this league. Like you shouldn't win because you should be out of this league, or I don't know, or like something should.
You deserve to lose because your league is bad.
No, you deserve to win. Like we just have to pick a winner.
They have the counter rule. They're trying.
Yeah. No, you're right. So your league is fine. I guess I'm just saying, like, I think you both deserve to win this contest, Elon, and there can only be one winner.
No, there's no rule that says that.
All right, so fine. So one person could win a pizza, and the other person could get an ad, and they have to decide amongst themselves.
Sure.
All right, but I'm gonna say the official winner, just because every year we've had an official winner. I'm giving it to head-to-head person, just because I feel like that's the more like, I don't know. It's like the more fantasy hockey, like just like you actually like just played the best. And just like you had some really bad luck, and it's like not even like anyone did something dumb. It's just kind of like how head to head works.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
you want to know who our winner is?
Who's the winner and who's the runner up?
The runner up is Professional Slacker, who I spilled that early on, and our winner is long time patron and new father of twins, Mason. Congratulations!
Yay! Awesome!
Yay! So we will we'll get in touch with you about getting
Mason,
your prize.
You're going to make your choice.
Congrats for being the least deserving loser.
Or no, I can say the most deserving loser.
The loser who most deserved to win.
Yeah. Next year we're going to brand this better.
What's the acronym for that?
Where's John Newhold? Just tell us how we should name this episode. Okay. So Mason's going to get first choice of either pizza or an ad read, and then Professional Slacker gets the second choice. Okay?
Okay.
All right, we did it. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been so much fun. What are we doing here in the Oilers Vegas game?
It's 1-1.
So excited. I want to go watch this game. All right. So
Me
Brian,
too.
why don't you read the credits? Take us out of here. Oh,
all right.
Scored 2-1.
This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey, empowered by our patrons, including our super supporters, Adam, Aaron, Ivan, Andrea, Tom, Derek, David, Rob, Ricard, and of course, Patty. We also want to thank everybody who submitted a story and gave us something to talk about. We really appreciate, again, your participation and engagement. Logo art by BrandonWeeb.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was still researched with help from Dobber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoldies.org, Hockey Reference, HockeyViz Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo, because I looked up a couple draft results.
Great job as always, Brian. Looks like we could have done 2 episodes after all. Could have been part 1 and part 2, but we did.
Oops.
So everyone gets it all in one. I hope you could fit it on your Android or iPhone, this mega 2-hour episode. But yeah, thanks so much for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this little fun escapade. We'll be back soon with that round 3 draft, most likely for KKPP, where we'll talk more about obviously what happened in the second round and project what's going to happen for the rest of the playoffs. But Brian, while people are waiting for the next Keeping Karlsson episode to drop and waiting to see what happens in this Oilers Golden Knights game and waiting to see who's going to win the Stanley Cup, what should we be doing in the meantime?
Please keep doing all you can to make sure that fantasy hockey can really be for everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy and Andrea, carrying the chat here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Giving us something to read.
It's nice to have company.
Yeah. And
especially
Brian,
from people who think we're entertaining.
Brian, I really appreciate you putting this together. Like, you did awesome. We'll talk more soon, but